Hey everybody, it's Logic Bomb 82 from the Mature Minded Gamers. We are a group of adult gamers who have jobs and lives, but also several passions, including video gaming, board gaming, and much more. You can join us by visiting our website, maturemindedgamers.com. Today we're bringing you our Star Trek podcast, where we cover the latest news and all things Star Trek. Hey everybody, it's Eric from the Mature Minded Gamers group, and today we are covering Star Trek Picard Episode 3, The End is the Beginning, and we all just watched it live together. So we had a lot of stuff go on in this episode, and I have several questions that I am excited to ask you guys. But first off, we have a new guest. Ben is joining us today. Ben, can you tell us a little bit about your Trek history, favorite series, least favorite series?
Been a fan of Trek at least 37 years, probably correlating with the beginning of Next Generation. My favorite series is Deep Space Nine, and my least favorite series is probably Voyager.
Ouch, right in the heart.
I feel you on that one, man. 100%. Deep Space Nine, best one.
We also have Will and Brad with us again tonight. They have been in the other two episodes.
What up?
Hey.
Brad's a little under the weather, so he sounds more manly though. I kind of like it.
It's called my sexy voice.
I like it. All right, so let's get started with this episode. We finally get to see the exact time when Jean-Luc Picard resigns from Starfleet. You get to see that him and Raffi are there together, and she is a lieutenant commander, it looks like. And he kind of explains what happened and how he didn't really think they would have him resign, but they ended up accepting it. And so then we have Raffi saying, well, now the CNC wants to talk to me. It looks like I'm going to get fired, but it doesn't seem like she's really taking it too serious at that point. So what did you guys think of this scene? Did you pull anything else from it that I missed?
I think a little bit for me was seeing the Picard from Next Generation to this show. You see him a lot more relaxed. Like, I don't think anybody on Next Generation would have ever referred to him by JL or Jean-Luc, and kind of showed maybe he's relaxed a little bit in where he is in his career at this point in Starfleet.
Yeah, I kind of felt like the whole JL thing was a little too informal to speak to an admiral, no matter who you are or what your relationship is with him. Really, it felt weird, I guess. But I'm willing to overlook it just based on her character, at least for now.
I think the thing they were trying to get across for how I took it was that they have more of a familiarity relationship going on and less formal. And there's maybe more of a relationship there than we're kind of led to believe, or we're kind of shown at this point, I guess you should say. And I think maybe there's more to that connection than we already know.
I kind of had the same thought there, Will. Like they were kind of showing how close they really were.
Yeah, give it a second, and Eric is going to tell us that he thinks Raffi is Picard's daughter.
So coming up, the next scene we see with Picard and Raffi, she is not very happy with him. She is pissed. So obviously, I think from the next scene, how angry and jaded she seemed, something else has went down. I think we're going to have something else come up where she tried to do the rescue mission maybe without Picard, or I actually think her and Picard went ahead and tried this. Is that what you guys are kind of thinking happened?
So how I kind of took it was the fact that he never checked in on her after all of it went down. He went off to Chateau Picard and kind of tried to live his own life and didn't even, because as Raffi had said in that scene was, you never checked on me. You never asked how I was doing. And there was no connection after that. And it seems like Picard was maybe disappointed in himself a little bit and kind of put his tail between his legs and kind of went off and did his own thing and didn't continue to have that bridge, that Raffi. So she didn't maybe feel that relationship was as strong as she was led to believe in the first place.
So you don't think anything else happened? You think just that fact is why she's so angry at him?
No, not necessarily, but I think that has a big factor into it. I mean, that was one of the main things she said was, hey, you never checked in on me.
She's had 14 years to dwell on it.
Right.
Whereas I don't feel like he's given it a second thought.
I think she was more engaged in that, because, for her, it was like, man, you kind of did this to me. And that's kind of what she said is you resign, and then they fire me. She feels like he doesn't care.
Yeah, and he kind of hesitated on whether or not to contact her. So I do think he knows he's made a mistake with her, at least. Yeah, it did seem kind of bizarre that they would have fired her just for being a part of Picard's team. I definitely think there's probably more to that story. But as to why she's upset at him or upset with him, I think that he probably did his Picard swagger and got her to buy into whatever he was telling her. And then when he resigned, it was kind of like, we did all this work for nothing. Like, you threw it away by resigning.
I can see that too. And maybe because it is more like a military organization, she was removed from whatever job she had because she was on the coattails of an admiral, and maybe she resigned, and she still sees that somehow as the first domino that fell was him taking off the comm badge and walking away.
Well, and she did say that they removed her security clearance. So
Yep,
that's probably
yep.
the security clearance that she had.
She-
And then
she-
she
She
basically,
also mentioned that she was a bit of a I can't remember the term they used, but she was kind of a not skeptic, but doomsday. Like,
Right.
conspiracy theorist.
yeah. So I think losing her security clearance lost access to the things that she needed to hold her life together, maybe.
Well, she does mention that she thinks Romulans were involved in the very first attack with the droids blowing up Mars.
Yep.
So yeah, but I think something else has happened. I don't think she got fired when she went to see CNC. I think she and Picard tried to do an off-the-book mission to rescue these people, and maybe Picard abandoned her, or somehow. I think that's how she lost her security clearance.
Well, I mean, we already know that he did something, right? I mean, obviously they've rescued some Romulans, right? Am I correct in
I
that? I
think
mean,
that-
like the two Romulans that are on the chateau
I
with
mean,
him.
Romulans escaped, and yes, he has Romulans with him, but I think there's something alluded to that there's some kind of history between at least those two having been prior to Tal Shiar having a relationship with Picard at some point. But I still think that's a little bit of a murky water area so far, and I'm sure they'll get into it. But we obviously still have Romulans out there. We have Romulans on the Borg cube. People, they evacuated whoever they could, but I don't know. I don't know what that backstory is yet. I like it. I love those characters, but I don't know that they were necessarily rescued by Picard, or were they already having a relationship with Picard prior to this happening?
Yeah, I would agree, because the thing we got to remember is that it's not like the Romulans were completely hopeless and helpless. They did have their own fleet and their own ability to move people off of some of those planets. That their ask is this is a bigger task than we can accomplish ourselves, Federation. We're willing to look beyond our years of distrust from one another to ask for your help. And I still get the impression that some of the rescue efforts were underway because Admiral Picard had ordered it, but that the attack on Mars stopped it.
Yeah, a two front situation. Like, we should put our efforts into what is ours versus helping one of our enemies. But by the same token, it's almost like a flip side coin of the Kittimer issue that happened in Star Trek 6. Like, Starfleet didn't necessarily drop everything to go help the Klingons. There was a lot of stuff that happened between Praxis exploding and them going to do it. And this could have been the thing that brought the Romulans into the fold of the Federation. But who was the upper echelon there that said, "Hey, let's not help the Romulans. Let's take care of Mars"? Because they even allude to that in this episode, that somebody higher up knew something.
Right.
Stopped this.
Somebody's covering it up.
Yeah.
So the next scene we see is Soji talking to Hugh, and we find out that he's actually the executive director of the reclamation project that's been going on in the Borg cube. She's been doing a great job, apparently, is what Hugh says, and she gets a favor. And so she wants to talk to one of the Romulans, who she picks. Rada, I think was her name. who was the foremost leading expert on ancient Romulan myth. So it seems like a kind of a weird mixture. However, we find out that there is some kind of therapeutic unity of a shared mythological framework is what she's trying to achieve. So to me, this could go a couple different ways. I think this is either her wanting to help all the XBs basically have some kind of unity and a framework to help them heal from what has happened to them. Or my other thought was going to be covered in our crazy theories at the end. But what do you guys think of this?
Well, so I want to back up a little bit because I want to talk about Hugh as the director. This is not the sweet, lovable, reclaimed Borg that we remember from back in Next Generation. He has definitely been through some things, and he seems a lot more quippy, or that's not the right word. He seems a lot more
Arrogant.
Yeah, arrogant's a good word, but even more so, like the Hugh that we left at the I think season 6 or 7 in Next Generation. The last time we see him, he would not have aligned with the Romulans at that time. I think this is interesting that he's got an alignment with the Romulans.
I think it's interesting how he's become director of an actual Borg cube, like reclamation facility or whatever this place is. Like you said, it's interesting that, last we saw him, he was going off with his small band trying to find other Borgs that kind of got disconnected, if I'm not mistaken, and see what he could do to help connect them or help reclaim them. And why is he on this ship doing that? And like, how is he here? You know what I mean?
I got two things. One, in reference to Hugh. Again, I keep saying the same thing over and over, but like the flip side of the coin, when the Borg assimilated Jean-Luc Picard and made him Locutus, the human voice of the Borg, it's almost like Hugh is now the human voice for the reclaimed Borg. Like, why is he the director? Why is he this? He is now their herald. He's like, Silver Surfer, however you want to put that into that framework, but it's almost like at two sides of the same coin. Hugh is now the reverse of what Locutus was. And then the other thing goes back to what Eric said about the unity and the ability to help heal themselves. Now, even though Voyager is my least favorite, season 3 had an episode called Unity, where there were some ex-Borg in the Delta Quadrant. Chakotay has like a concussion, and the only way they can heal him is by getting him into their neural network. And he refuses it because he doesn't want to lose Borg. Finally, they do it against his wishes, and they make him better. And the plot twist on this is one of the Borg is actually Romulan. So kind of what Eric was saying there, the unity, getting them together, they can heal together. It's already happened, and it happened in the Delta Quadrant. And I also find it a little weird that Hugh doesn't know about that Romulan that had been assimilated. Voyager log should be part of everything. It's been 20 some odd years, but I like how things are feeding back. Even things we may not realize are feeding back into some of the original Next Generation and Voyager and so on and so forth. And for me, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's a pretty good poll on that particular episode. And just to establish the canon of Borgs who have been disconnected from the collective, it seems like everything up till this point, every disconnected Borg has had a lot better time or a lot easier time reaching their, for lack of a better term, humanity. That particular episode, they were all normal looking. Almost everybody was almost fully restored and normal looking. And then we look at Jerry Ryan as 7 of 9, and she's pretty normal looking. But then we look at Hugh, and he's not okay. Like, they were not able to remove all of his different attachments and augmentations. So I think there's something that changed in that. And I want to say that it's more than just a cosmetic thing, that they got better makeup artists or something now. I want to put some lore behind that and say that, maybe some of those, maybe the Borg made it more difficult to.
They adapted.
Yeah, they adapted. And now it's harder to leave the collective.
Yeah.
I think it all makes complete sense that he is there doing that because, like you said, Will, he wanted to go out and help other Borg. And then, all of a sudden you have these Romulans trying to bring these Borg back. And I mean, it's a perfect fit for him. Obviously going to be more equipped, and nobody else probably wants to help this process. them there with this ship and all this technology, and it really seemed like he cared about them too, especially when the fortune teller lady pulled that disruptor out, and he says, "No, don't punish her. It wasn't her fault. It was the security officers." Like, he seems like he's really there and he cares about them. So I think it's a perfect fit. I don't think it feels right to me.
You had asked if we had pulled anything from the scene with, I can't remember what her name was, but the Romulan, the expert on Romulan mythology that had been
called the fortune teller.
Yeah, the fortune teller, I guess. Yeah, that's an interesting thing because she called Soji the destroyer, and she asked which sister she was, the one that lives or the one that dies. And so where this leaves me a little bit sort of confused is she explicitly says that what she's doing is telling the news, and she's saying, "I met you tomorrow." I guess I don't really know the connection of how the Borg are seeing events, or these Borg are seeing events that have already, or that haven't quite happened yet. Because if she's on the artifact, there's no way that she could have known that Daj had been killed yet, because from our perspective, it just happened recently. And if she's been caught up in captivity, there's no way she could have known that. So there's something in there that I'm not quite picking up on yet that I'm kind of excited to figure out how that plays out.
Hey, let's not forget the Borg do have access to temporal mechanics. Star Trek First Contact.
Yeah, that's true, but
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, Brad. I'm excited to find out more the connection between the Borg and Daj, and I guess the Romulans and Daj, and how Maddox fits all into the whole play. I'm obviously there's some sort of like connection between all of it, and obviously we wouldn't have a show without it. But man, this show is really slowly becoming that slow burn for me. It's like, oh, this is getting better, and it's having an amazing build up, and I'm pretty darn excited.
So she seems to really pull information when she needs it, and she doesn't even know how she gets it. We see that referenced a couple times in this episode, where even Hugh didn't know that she was on the last Romulan ship to be captured by the Borg. And then the whole time, I think we all thought that, they destroyed the Borg ship, but we find out that it was a major malfunction. And so the real question is, how does she have this knowledge? And where's this all coming from? And then we see her fast forward a few scenes later in her room, and she calls her mom immediately to find out if her sister's okay. And that was a different mother on the holotape, right? That wasn't the one we've seen Daj call, was it?
No, I think it was the same person. I just think that it was a different manifestation of the same program.
I thought she looked a little different, but I'm not 100% sure. I didn't pull back the first episode. But obviously, I mean, that's Maddox, right? Controlling her, because he puts her to sleep by saying...
I don't know that I'm quite ready to say it's Maddox.
Well, whoever's controlling her, Maddox or the Borg or whatever.
I think you're onto something there, Eric. I think he downloaded his information to her when she's sleeping.
Oh, I definitely think something is downloading information while she's sleeping, or in that mode right there where she gets. I think that's something, but I'm not convinced it's Bruce Maddox yet.
I think we're going to find out next episode. At least I hope.
Based on the pace that this show has taken, we're not going to find out until like episode 12.
Oh,
season 3.
That's for a later conversation.
So that's season 2 then, 'cause there's only 10 episodes.
Well, it's going to be season 3.
All right, so let's cut back. We got a little bit ahead of ourselves there, and we see an unregistered ship captained by Rios, who Raffi suggests to Picard to, it's the ship for him to basically hire. And so Picard beams over, and we meet the very first emergency holograph on the ship, which looks just like Rios. And the first one we meet, I think, is the navigation hologram. But then it switches to the medical hologram in the next scene, I believe. He has these holograms on his ship that look just like him, but have different personas and different accents. Mm-hmm. So what do we think's going on there? And how many does he have on his ship? Is this how he flies the ship? There's so many questions.
Yeah, I kind of looked up a little bit on that one because I was also curious. And it's definitely an EMH, the emergency medical hologram, and the ENH, the emergency navigational hologram. So I'm sure that he's probably got, at least those two, if not a couple of more that are just stand-ins for the rest of the crew that he would need to operate the ship.
All right. So next up, we get Picard actually meeting Rios, and he's got a large piece of shrapnel in his shoulder. I found a couple things interesting about this scene. One, he doesn't want to explain what really happened, and two, he doesn't want the doctor to fully heal it. He wants to leave a scar. Any thoughts on this?
So the ship was in like an immaculate condition, right? So I don't think it happened on the ship. I think something happened off planet or something, because there was no sign. And even Picard said the ship is in, pristine Starfleet order, and everything is secured and everything. It doesn't look like it actually happened, an incident on the ship itself.
I mean, for me, we've already been introduced to the hologram. Nothing that says that potentially he doesn't have a holodeck or a holosuite. He made some mention of having watched his commanding officer die. Who's to say he doesn't trust other people, or he doesn't want other people to get hurt, which is why he crews himself with holograms. And two, maybe with the safety features off on a hologram, he's living experience to try. Can I save my commanding officer? Can I save my captain? Star Trek.
Man, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Next Generation was great, but it was bland because everybody agreed with each other. It wasn't until Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise we started introducing other characters that had flaws and problems. The Bajoran militia, the Maquis, things of that nature. And I think now it's okay to show a flawed Starfleet officer. Something went south, and this is what happened. We don't know what happened with Raffi. We all hold Picard up on a pedestal because we all grew up watching Captain Picard on Next Generation. But now we've been introduced to a commander and a lieutenant commander that are damaged beyond anything that we know. And I'm sure we'll get all those backstories later. But that's what I got from that scene, was a very isolated individual who was recommended to Picard from another isolated, damaged individual. So who knows what kind of history those two have together as well. But that's kind of what I took away from it.
He mentioned that he was on a former heavy assault ship, I believe. Have we ever heard of that class before?
No.
Not directly.
I didn't know it either. And then he also mentions, you don't know my ship's name, or you've never heard of my ship because it's all swept under the rug. So obviously whatever went down where his heroic captain died must have been pretty crazy. I really hope we get the whole backstory on that.
It has shades of Discovery season 2. Like, all that got wiped under the rug. We're not supposed to know any of that happened. So here we are 100 years later, and we know that the Federation and Starfleet are still keep the thing on the down low if they need to.
Right, and this would have happened after the whole, Romulan incident. So apparently, things haven't been so uppity up since then as well.
Section 9.
31, bud.
Section 31. Yeah.
That's it.
Any thoughts? Do we want to take a wild guess here? Who the captain was that he lost that was heroic?
Captain Beverly Crusher.
Well, right. I mean, that's what I was thinking. Could it be someone from Next Generation that we're going to get an intertwining history with Picard somehow?
I think Starfleet is big.
Yeah, but he references like a heroic captain. Like he kind of makes a big deal out of it.
And that could have been anybody, though. I mean, there were a lot of heroic captains that died at Wolf 359, and a lot that died in the Dominion Wars or whatever else happened between, the end of Deep Space Nine and now. I mean, when at the end of Voyager, we had a cube come out of
the transport conduit
right into Federation space. Like, there would have been a battle there. Then there would have been some sort of heroics that would have happened about the time of the saving of Romulus. So I think there's a lot and it could have been the attack on Mars. I mean, there's a lot that could have happened.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say it was Geordi.
No, Geordi is not dead. You take that back.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. It was Geordi. It was Picard's mission somehow, and Raffi is Geordi's daughter, and that's why Raffi hates him. There we go. Solved. All right, so moving on. The next thing we get is Picard back at the chateau, and he's preparing to leave, and he has his Romulan assistants there, basically packing up his stuff for him and telling him goodbye. And then all of a sudden, the Tal Shiar attacks, and we get a great action scene. We see how badass Zoban and Laris are. They kick a lot of butt, and then we see at the end, they let down their guard, and then here comes one more, and then who comes in and saves the day? The most scaredy cat person in the whole crew, Dr. Dorada, comes in and uses the Romulan disruptor and kills someone, and then, she doesn't understand that she actually killed him. I thought that was a really cool scene where she says, Romulan disruptors don't have a stun, which is really cool. And then I think we got a lot of character from her. So we learned that, one, she's not comfortable killing people like everyone else in that scene is. And two, that she, doesn't really know how to handle a gun.
Well, we think that. I mean, maybe that's just what she's portraying. Maybe she's part of Section 31, and maybe O was actually coming in to check on her. I mean, who knows? Somebody is obviously going to. I don't think everybody's on the up and up that's going to be on Picard's ship. I think somebody's there for malicious purposes.
I didn't get that vibe at all, but
no. Well, I'm just saying. I mean, I just think that's something that's going to happen. It's just my guess.
All right, do you might pull anything from the scene? How about all the phasers underneath the tables? They knew shit was coming, didn't they?
They made the comment at one time, and I can't remember if this is this episode or episode 2, but they said the only thing that could protect Picard from the Tal Shiar was the Tal Shiar. And so we know that Zhaban and Laris are former Tal Shiar members, and that they're there because they, and this is a part that I don't know yet because I haven't read the graphic novels, but I understand that they defected from the Tal Shiar to kind of open up the channels of communication with Picard. So I think that, they've pledged an allegiance to him as the quote unquote admiral and are basically there for his protection. The whole them being housekeepers and whatnot is a byproduct. So all that to say, the weapons in various places make sense if they're former Tal Shiar.
I was gonna say, I thought Picard was pretty badass in that scene too. I mean, yeah, he got hit around a couple times, but he's old. But I mean, how he was able to fend him off himself,
I think they're definitely showing his age. They're not trying to make him look superhero-ish or anything like that, which I think is good. I think it's fitting because he obviously is old.
Well, in the Next Generation, Picard really never brawled that much. Not like, they did for Kirk.
Hey, just to throw this out here too, like when they ran the first season of the Next Generation, each character was supposed to be 10 years old actor playing them because Roddenberry wanted everybody to, in the future, you'll be a little bit vital, a little older. And I was doing the math while we were watching the show tonight. In theory, based on the years and everything, Picard should be around 94 years old in this series. So going back to what Will said, 94 years old, I think he handled himself for being almost a centurion there.
Good point. So the Tal Shiar agent that they capture, obviously, a couple things about this that I found interesting, and this may be known. I'm just not as smart on Trek stuff as you guys, but the one that they capture has really big ridges like the other Romulan, and she referenced it. Oh, he's from the north like you. He's stubborn. Is that a known fact that determines what their ridges look like?
I actually think it is based on a joke from Roddenberry when they changed the Klingon makeup from the original series to the series, and people asked, why do these Klingon ridges? And he always referred to them as being from the...
Oh, I didn't know that.
At the time, there was no, they didn't want to explain. It was just we had better makeup now than we had in a TV show. So he had always referred to the Klingons from up north. So I took it as a little in-joke for people who knew weird stuff that Roddenberry would say back in the day. I actually wrote it down in my notes, too, about them being north. I thought that was a funny in-joke.
All right, so pretty much wrapped it up. There was a couple scenes with Narek in it. One where he's talking to Soji. One where he's talking to Soji right after she wakes up from her little sleep. And man, it was just a weird scene. She's like explaining that she doesn't know how she figured all this stuff out, and he's like, "Oh, I love you." And then the scene ends, and we get an even weirder scene with him and his sister/lover. What is going on with that? They kind of did the same thing in Discovery with Spock and Spock's sister. Like, because for a while, I mean, it wasn't as bad in Discovery, but for a while we kept thinking, were they like former lovers? What was going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely got a Joe Dirt sort of vibe off of that with him and Jamie Presley. You're my sister. You're my sister.
No, I thought it was pretty awkward when she's sitting there telling him how she's scared and doesn't know what's going on and how does she know this stuff? And then all of a sudden he just whispers, I think I love you. And then it's like, oh, they give you a hug and, oh, everything's okay. I mean, that doesn't make sense.
Total emotional manipulation. And I get why he's doing it. He wants her to reveal details to him that she wouldn't reveal to anybody else. And this is, I think, an indicator that he's in. And by saying that he loved her in that moment, she's starving for that kind of attention, and he's in.
That's a good point. It's kind of showing him playing her, I guess.
Total Romulan.
All right, and the very last scene, we get everybody on the ship, including Raffi, who's on there and says, "Well, we find out that they track Maddox to Free Cloud. Any history on Free Cloud? I didn't recognize it. Besides it sounding like Cloud City.
None that I'm aware of.
None that I'm aware of either, but that's apparently Easter egg, and that's supposed to reference a David Bowie.
Oh, okay.
Can we go back to something actually though? Right before they're all on the ship together, not Raffi. What's the pilot's name? Rios is basically telling Picard, things are about to get even hotter. Well, like with what? Like I kind of took it as there's like an emergency going on, or like you're about to have more people come in or something. Was he just more referring to the fact that Raffi was on the ship? Is that what you guys got? See, I kind of thought of it as, oh man, you're about to have more company. So I'm thinking, well, man, they've got to get the 2 Romulan people out of the chateau as well. I don't know. Do you think it was just more alluding to that Raffi was on the ship?
I mean, I think it could be alluding to the fact that here we are, the 4 of us on this small, understaffed ship, and we're getting ready to go to a cube and face off against Romulans, and you're telling me there's a synthetic out there, so she's a synthetic. I mean, it could be, I get it. He was a commander. He was an XO on a ship, but it's kind of a daunting task. It's very Lord of the Rings-ish. Like, we don't have weapons. We don't have Federation behind us. We don't have Star, but we're going to go try to do all of this on our own. Okay, cool. Let's go. You're paying me. I don't care.
I thought it definitely did, Will. I think he was referencing that more Tal Shiar were coming to get them. But the thing that was interesting to me was, how did he know? Like, what kind of systems does he have?
No, I think it was Raffi. I think Raffi, somehow or another, she seems to be a little bit more adept at searching the net. She's a lead hacker, and she figured out that something was going to happen.
Yeah, that makes good sense. What do we think about the first engage?
Lackluster.
Lackluster was the word I was going to say.
Oh, I thought it was a great way to end it. I did like when he first gets on the ship. We kind of skip past this. When he first gets on the ship and he's talking to Rios, and Rios tells him to take a seat. He walks by the captain's chair and kind of looks at it for a second, and then he walks over and sets in the other one. I thought that was kind of cool.
So you think the book that he was reading, how Picard kind of like looked at it for a minute, kind of shows he was kind of saying, "Hey, man, this guy's a little bit more refined than what he's letting on." Do you think that was kind of an indicator of the character, that he's a little bit more cultured than just some pirate/pilot?
Well, he said he had read his book, Picard's book, which I found interesting. And I meant to look up the title of that second book, and I forgot to do it. Did anybody
The
see what
Tragic Sense of Life.
Is that a real book, or is that something fake?
It's a Spanish poet and philosopher. The core philosophical argument of this book is that life is tragic because all humans know they will eventually die.
Mm.
Okay. So I think you're right, Will. I think it was trying to show us that he was, there was more to him than his bad boy persona. His Han Solo persona he was trying to play off.
That a kid.
All right, so let's move on. Any final thoughts on this episode?
More questions. Got some answers, but a lot more questions. I like to see that stuff's actually moving forward, though. Kind of a slower show so far. I know this is episode 3, but there's only like eight episodes. Is that correct, boys?
10,
I think.
10 episodes, and we're already in episode 3, and we're just now starting the quest. It's like, okay, this was Next Generation. They would have had the answer by now. You know what I'm saying? They would have solved it by using some transwarp conduit, separating the saucer section bullshit.
Yeah, I agree. So I watched earlier today just because I didn't think I was going to make the podcast tonight. But the first thing I text Eric is that this thing is slow as a snail, and we've already watched 3 hours of this show and have barely had anything that I expected. Now, all that to say, I'm still really enjoying it, but we got to pick up the pace here, fellas. I mean, we've only got 7 episodes left to cover a lot of ground. It's either got to get to a chaotic speed or ludicrous speed, or it's got to, something isn't going to get resolved by the end of the season.
Well, they already got season 2 in the works, so we know it's not going to all get resolved.
Oh, I know that, but they've got to give us something, or we're not going to want to watch season 2.
Right.
This is going to go the way of Stargate Universe if they don't start picking up the pace a bit.
I think it's going just fine. We have a lot of history and fill in the blanks to cover, and I think they're doing a great job. I haven't been bored at all.
Well, yeah, but there've been like Brad was saying though, there've been shows that that are slower paced, that have much better engagement values, like Star Trek Universe. Star Trek Universe, I feel, was what's that?
Stargate Universe. She said Star Trek.
Oh, sorry, Stargate Universe. That was like an engaging show, and that definitely. Well, I'll be honest. So far, I was more engaged into that than I am in this so far. But we'll see where it goes.
Now, I guess my question is it because of the Next Generation and that this is not the Next Generation? Is that where you feel like the disconnect is?
I mean, for me, that I don't care if it's new characters, different characters. I like that they have some sort of tie-in between the two. It's more the fact that the story isn't. It's just too darn slow. I mean, it's almost like Game of Thrones, where you're watching season 7 and they just made it, just killed the king or whatever. It's like, okay, finally.
That's how TV has changed since Next Generation's been on. Next Generation, everything was solved 57 minutes. We went on to the next planet. Wasn't really till Deep Space Nine we started kind of getting more stretched out story.
Well, I understand that.
What for me, and what I'm picking up on this is it's built for us, and I get it. The action and the adventure is what we're looking for. But Star Trek always had this great ability to introduce characters, and they tell you this really interesting backstory. And I think you and I have talked about this before, like when Ensign Rowe came on and they tell you this great story about how she disobeyed on the command crew, was killed, yada, yada, yada. In Discovery, we got to see the backstory. We saw the backstory for that character 2 episodes before we ever really jumped into the story. And I think for me, what I'm seeing is like the 14, 15 years it's been, Picard has been in service to Starfleet. He still sees himself the same way. And I kind of took notes on this, but 3 separate times over 3 episodes, we had the scene where the Admiral uses her expletive and about his hubris, his resignation to start this, and my resignation. They took my resignation. He's shocked. And then when Raffi says, I will come with you, but I will not join you, it showed how he still sees him the way we saw Next Generation, but nobody around him does anymore. They don't show the respect, adulation for him. He was never that way. Like when the Mintakans were trying to see him, he refused to do it. He'd rather get shot with an arrow and killed. But now we're seeing somebody that won't play on his previous past and expects these things to happen and realize that that's not the way the world works for him anymore. And it's kind of where we are, that it's not about what you did for me in the past, it's what are you now. And I find that to be, I get it. It's a little slower, but sometimes that slow burn, man, I'm willing to invest the time now in the slow story to get where we're going, because I think there's a lot of development that I think when you watch it, more episodes over and over, and you're like, how, like, why didn't I see that before? You just start to invest in it. And I'm guilty, because just to get myself back into the mindset, this isn't Next Generation. It's a 94-year-old lead in the story, and we just gotta, and there's a lot going on. Romulan, Federation, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I think it's moving at a really good pace.
I do know that they've been pretty open about the fact that they want this show to both be entertaining for those of us that are Trekkies, versus those who are new initiates too. So I think maybe that has something to do with it. But to me, I'm invested, and I'm going to continue to be invested in watching this. The way this is being set up, I feel like we've had a 3-episode series premiere and not a 3 episodes of, like, I think if they were going to make this a 10-episode series, we should have had a 3-hour premiere with these 3 episodes back to back. I think if that were the case, I think the pacing for me would have been okay. Knowing that I have 9 more episodes after this moment right here, I feel like that's probably a reasonable pace to set. But knowing that we only have 7 more episodes and kind of extrapolating how far we've moved the pen in 3 episodes, I'm afraid of all the loose ends that they're going to leave at the end of this season, or they're going to rush endings. And that doesn't, knowing that Patrick Stewart is as involved as he is, that doesn't sound like something he would do. So I don't know. I guess I'm just fearful what episode 10 is going to look like.
I think you're spot on. I mean, I think you summed it up great in our last podcast when you said that the first 2 episodes should have been the hour-and-a-half long premiere. And this really feels like this should have been the 2nd episode. And that would have been a good lead up going into the 3rd one.
So I wanted to call attention to the fact that just a little bit of timeline here. So we know that the attack on Mars happened, 14 years ago? Previous to this, was that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And based on the number that was on the number of days since the last assimilation, I think it said like 5,430 something. Anyway, some little paper math on that shows that was 16 years prior. So that means that the Romulans have had this Borg cube for at least 16 years, if not longer. And they've been studying this and harvesting it for data or for technology for a lot longer. So to me, like one of the things that I'm really interested in is, where did this cube come from? Like originally, I had it in my mind that this was going to be the cube that came through the transwarp conduit when Voyager came back to the Alpha Quadrant, but I don't think that timeline matches up. And this actually occurs after we find out that the star is going to go supernova, or after the Romulans find out their star is going to go supernova, but probably before they ask for help from the Federation. It's just interesting that this Borg cube either, dropped out of space in Romulan territory or close enough that they were able to get it before the Federation was.
All right. Any crazy theories? Am I the only one? Hugh references, and we talked about this earlier, that the only Romulans that have been assimilated are the 20 that are in the psych ward, or whatever you want to call it, which I find interesting. Like, for one, why is it only them? And two, Soji references that ship had 25 Romulans on it. We could always assume that the other 5 died. But my crazy theory is her and her sister and her mom and dad were 4 of the other ones on that ship. That's where I was leading with that earlier.
That would place her as being a lot older than she is, though. Just to poke holes in that right away, like, think about the timeline I just set. That would be, she'd be quite a bit older.
No?
How so? That you were actually backwards on that, Brad. She could have been like 6 years old, and then she got digitally enhanced or altered.
No, that's fair.
That's my crazy theory. I love crazy theories. I'm probably completely wrong, but I want to share it.
Well, this is not necessarily a crazy theory, but I was thinking of this, Eric, when you were referencing Bruce Maddox, and a light came on. Romulans harvesting Borg. Romulans have a strong distrust of computers, usually only use equations, things of that nature. Bruce Maddox went missing after Data was destroyed. He left the Institute because of them not being able to make any more sense. But he is potentially the one who created these, and who better to marry organic and cybernetic than Borg. So I'm just wondering if maybe Bruce Maddox is either initiated, kind of what Brad was talking about. What are they actually doing with the reclamation? Does it have anything to do with the twins?
Right. I think that could all be possibilities. I think Maddox may be the one that started the whole reclamation thing, and he may still be running it. That would make perfect sense. I'm anxious to see what Part 7 and 9 is going to play, because I think that's going to reveal a lot about what's really going on.
And I'm surprised we haven't seen her, and I'm surprised we obviously also haven't seen number 1 or Deanna yet. I was for sure they were going to be in this episode.
From what I've been reading, they've structured this more like play, and I know, again, it kind of goes back to the tedium of the first 3 episodes. Those first 3 episodes were Act 1. The next block is supposed to be our Act 2, and then our last 3 episodes are going to be the last act. And I felt the same way. I thought Riker and Troy, just based off what we saw in the trailer, they were on Earth. But I mean, we know from Star Trek that every planet looks like Earth, so they could be anywhere. And I also do point out, this is the first time the vast Raffi lives has been used as its actual location and not an alien world in Star Trek. So that was kind of
Did you notice that there was a Gorn egg?
It
said something about a Gorn egg in there. I didn't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody got any other crazy theories?
Section 31 and the Tal Shiar are in bed together, and it is the Federation and the Romulans have already started working together, and they are going to create their own universe, and that is how the story of Star Wars was made.
This is all done by Control.
That's
right.
Crazy.
All right, everybody. Thanks for checking out our podcast. Don't forget to check out our website, maturemindedgamers.com. We do video games, board games, and much more. Have yourself a great evening.